All right, welcome back to episode 3 of the Erickson Brothers podcast. Here, Matt Erickson talking all the way from New York City, Manhattan, and I got my brother on here coming to you from San Diego. Today, we'll be talking about reverse engineering our big goals, talking about what we have in store for our lives 10 years in the future, 20 years in the future, and then it'll just be a little bit of a think tank brainstorming session, how we get from A, where we are right now, to B, where we want to go. So a lot to unpack. We'll see where it goes. Just a free flowing stream of consciousness is what we're going to do. So Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, man. This first of all, this is one of my favorite conversations. Is just like selling the dream to yourself, thinking about the big goals, thinking about your future, and I always wish that like Musk and Bezos and Warren Buffett would have more like documented footage of when they were younger and what their thoughts were and what their life looked like at a really young age before they became millionaires, billionaires, decabillionaires. So one thing I like about this is because I know Matt and I are both going to be billionaires later in life, among other things, but it's just cool being able to record our thoughts so we can reflect on who we are and what we did later in life, but reflect on that as 22 and 23-year-olds struggling, just trying to make it, just trying to achieve some big goals. So I love how we're doing this because it's just giving us a good perspective of what
Mm-hmm.
what we're building later in life.
Yeah, and I think the what we're building too could be lots of different things. I think one important concept is uh, leaning into what God has in store for us and trusting Him. Like, if He doesn't want us to be financially successful, if He's calling us towards another avenue, and He wants us to do something else, then great. But we just want to be documenting what we're thinking, how we're going to go about it, and because we know we're going to do well in life, we're going to have success, whether it be in personal relationships, professionally, continue to build ourselves physically. So we're just going to lean into whatever it is, but document as we go along the way, because that's going to be something to look back on. No matter where we end up, it's going to be cool to look back on it.
Yeah.
So, so one of Jeff and I's dreams is to build a massive portfolio of companies or capital that has a lasting impact. And right now, the numerical value that comes to mind is something that's a $1 billion company, and whether that's in real estate or private equity, or one of us has a good idea for the next big thing. What we're kind of today going to just deconstruct how we would get there, starting with actions we can take, that we are taking, that can help us get there from starting today going into our lives 20, 30, 40 years from now.
Yeah, billion with a B, man. There's this quote. I'm trying to think. I think it's like in Wolf of Wall Street, and it's like, do you know what's cool? $1 billion is cool, and it's just like a quote that I thought of. I think it's pretty fun, but that's just exciting. That really gets me fired up to be financially wealthy, and I do think it's kind of a controversial take here, but I think God does call us to live abundant lives. I think God calls us to want to live lives where we can bless others and where we can really just have a big impact. And I was actually talking with my pastor. I got breakfast with him on Thursday this week, and he said he was like wearing these like Nike shoes. They're like Jordans, and he was just like wearing like a nice outfit. And he said like someone came up to him last week and said, "How can you be a follower of God and be wearing these clothes?" And he was like so like taken back at that comment. He's like, "What do you mean? Like how do those two relate?" And he goes like, how can you be wealthy and also follow God?" And what the pastor said was, okay, like let's look at this a different way. Like, how poor should I be in order to like follow God? Like, how poor is it? Like, you tell me how poor I should be in order to follow God. And then the guy didn't have anything to say. And he goes, okay, whatever numerical number you come up with, just know you can't bless anyone like that. You can't be a blessing to other people when you're homeless, when you don't have any money, when you can't provide for yourself. So I just thought that was an interesting comment and an interesting conversation I had with him.
Hmm. Hmm. I think there's a lot of ways that you can bless people, and it's not necessarily just financially. I think one of the things that God calls us to is just loving one another and uh, being in community with one another. And you don't need money to do that, but I think there are certain ways that wealth and just income can help you achieve those goals of building the kingdom and reaching out to people. So there's a lot of ways we can go to start to help people, and I think all ultimately when we leave this earth, we're not taking this billion-dollar company with us. We are gonna look back and see how many people we were able to help with it. So
Hmm.
it's a lot of things to unpack. I think that there are it is tricky to navigate having such lofty financial goals and being a Christian in 2023. But I think the main thing is loving people, trusting God, and being uh, aware to what He's calling us to. So
100%.
yeah, I think so. In terms of right now, the big thing in building wealth is there's like a lot of tech startups, and there's also uh, uh, the most massive companies are um, private equity companies that acquire other companies and finance them in order to build that business. And for me, what that looks like um, is in my position right now, the continue to learn as much as I can, and then see where it goes, but ultimately be able to run my own private equity company with Jeff. I think that keeping my options open, but also learning as much as I can right now, and starting to do the things that aren't going to benefit me tomorrow or a week from now or necessarily a month from now, but over time these small habits that I do. For example, like most people get into the office around 8:45, 9 o'clock. I've been getting around 7:45 or 8, and just so I can have that first hour of the week or first hour of the day to just read and get caught up and learn as much as I can, because I don't get that hour later in the day because emails are coming in, things are happening. I get put on projects, but that first hour of the day, I get to really soak in as much information as possible and see the greater trends, as well as the minor details of the day of deals that are going on in private equity or the bond market, whatever it is. So I know it's not going to benefit me tomorrow that I got up and got to work an hour earlier today, but it will benefit uh, potentially a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's like confidence isn't built. One of my favorite quotes ever. Confidence isn't built from yelling affirmations in the mirror. Confidence is built from having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in this case, it's showing up to the office early and doing things that other people aren't willing to do, right? So like that's how you build confidence, and doing that over a long time horizon, right? You're going to feel like you deserve things other people aren't willing to get.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's
Mm-hmm.
what I would say in regards to that. But
Mm-hmm.
another comment I was thinking earlier is like the fastest way to $100,000 is not the fastest way to $1 million, is not
Right.
the fastest way to $10 million, is not the fastest way to $1 billion,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like you have to know what your end goal is because it matters how you start, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like, for example, the most common way in the US right now to be a millionaire? Matt, do you know what it is? Most common way in the US to be a millionaire?
Inherit it from your parents.
Nope. It's through real estate equity, typically through your primary residence or one investment property. So,
Okay.
most common way to be a millionaire in the US through real estate. Most common way to be a billionaire, not through real estate, it's through private equity, right? Funny enough, it's real estate is also the least common way to be a billionaire, right? So if your goal is the B, the big B, then
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't solely just do real estate because that's going to be the hardest path because it's the least common. But if your goal is just to be a millionaire, then real estate might be your vehicle, right? Does that kind of make sense?
Right. Well, the same thing applies in most things in life. Like I remember when I was training and gaining velocity, like uh what got me from throwing from getting like this from 75 to 80 was not the same drills and tools that got me from 80 to 85 and ultimately 85 to 90 and then eventually 90 to 95. It was a constant evolution and net need to do something different because the same long toss routine, the same lifting routine, the same weighted ball routine, the same med ball routine wasn't going to get me all the way there. It was segmenting and knowing that, okay, weighted balls got me this far. What's going to get me the next 2 mile an hour jump? Okay, I'm throwing 92. What's going to get me to 94, etc. And it's a constant thing of, for me at least, and I'm starting to think that it's the similar in business too. That it's a constant uh, push and pull of finding out what works for you because in order to be a millionaire, real estate, like your primary residence, that's like a very vague thing of like, okay, where do I buy, like how do I hold it, what do I do with it, is it a duplex, like the specifics is going to change for everybody. And then billionaire private equity, I mean, that's just so broad. Like, are you going to specialize in fintech, are you going to specialize in like non-discretionary goods, are you going to like transportation, logistics, like are you going to sign big contracts with the government, like there's a lot of ways to get from point A to point B, but what got you from point A to point B isn't going to get you to point C. So I think it's just a constant like melting pot of trying different things, experimenting and seeing what works.
Yeah, it's like the person that, like the future you that's eventually going to achieve the goals you want to achieve isn't the person you are now, right? Because then you would have already achieved those goals, right? So like you aren't the person that is going to achieve the goals that you want to eventually achieve, because
Mm-hmm.
if you are, then you are would have already achieved them. And that's why like growth and personal development is so important, is because like in entrepreneurship, in business ownership, in having these huge goals, like it's a requirement, it's a necessity to achieve something massive, right? To get in that top 0.01%. So yeah, that's what I would say. Pretty fascinating though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I
So
would,
what does that? Go ahead.
yeah, I think we were both going to ask each other the same question. What are you doing today that
Yeah.
know that are you that you know will guarantee success 10, 20, 30 years from now?
Yeah. Well, first thing I want to preface it with, wealth is not transferred through money, it's transferred through education, right? So wealth from generation to generation is not transferred through money, it's transferred through knowledge and education,
Mhm.
right? So what I've learned with the wealthy people teach their kids is wealthy people teach their kids to pursue high leverage opportunities in business. So high leverage means that, so like low leverage would be you get paid per hour, you get paid per year, time input equals X amount output, right? Very low leverage. High leverage is little amount of time with lots of leverage could produce a huge result, right? So there's different ways you can leverage your time and through like leveraging labor, leveraging media, leveraging code, leveraging capital, those 4 different ways. So what I learned, and I was like, man, I want this huge result later in life. I have to pursue high leverage opportunities. So what I'm doing now is I'm building my own agency in the financial services realm, right? So I'm a financial broker right now, but I'm building out my own sales team in financial services because that allows me to leverage labor later down the road. So my input is going to be a huge amount of output because instead of having 24 hours in a day, I can have 48 and 72 and 102 and 136. So like it compounds on itself being able to leverage a sales team. So my initial goal is what I'm doing right now is I know I just have to cash flow. I have to get this off the ground and I have to get to the point where I can actually have all my expenses taken care of so I can be more aggressive in terms of the bigger business plays. Um, but yeah, that's my goal right now is to spend a couple years, spend 2, 3, 4 years building up this organization, building up my agency, getting the cash flow going, and then waiting for that right opportunity to hit and have the money to pursue it full speed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would you
And
say?
and what do you think that right opportunity could be?
I think initially, I think it's an apartment complex. I think that like risk adjusted, I think that's one of the quickest ways to build equity
Mm-hmm.
because it allows you to buy $1 million apartment complex, $2, $3 million unit for 10% of the cost,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes even less of that if you can get seller financing and outside capital. So you can put very little of your own money. You can have it backed by a hard asset, and you can get it cash flowing at a pretty high rate. Obviously, when you find the right deal. So um, that's what I see right now. But that is not my focus. Um, my focus is right now 100 grand my first year, 250 my second year, and then scaling up from there.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yeah. What about you? What would you say you're doing right now to kind of prepare yourself for those
Mhm.
opportunities 10, 20, 30
Yeah,
years?
I think that for my job as a it is in a corporate advisory role. We're giving recommendations to companies on um, how they should finance and lever and how different companies can lever themselves to best uh, carry out their functions. So I think that the bare minimum that I could do for myself right now is just do all the work necessary. Like when a boss says, "Hey, you need to create these slides, send this out, do this um, pricing, whatever it is." That would be like the bare minimum. But being the best at that is the bare minimum, and getting like returning comments faster than anybody and just doing the best work possible. That's the bare minimum. But I think on top of that, it's taking the time before 9 o'clock, after 6 or 7 o'clock to learn exactly the bigger picture and become as knowledgeable as I can in this space. So I can, since I am still now just over 3 months into my job, like I can get caught up to speed and progress faster than others would have because I am learning about the broader aspects of the business of corporate debt instead of just knowing exactly the just instead of just following the instructions. I'm doing the greater work outside, just trying to learn exactly what's happening. And over time, like, and I said this a few minutes ago, but being able to learn will benefit me. Not it won't benefit me next week or next month, but in a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, I will have such a better grasp of what I do and be able to like start forming my own opinions on the market and high yield bonds, private equity coverage, things like that.
Well, essentially, your company is paying you to learn, right?
Hmm.
They're paying you to learn at a very high level.
They're paying me to learn and format PowerPoint.
Which is good. Warren Buffett says you should either be in a period of learning or a period of earning. And I think you're in both, possibly.
Right. I think I am too, but I think the the important we can operate in four different spaces. We can operate in non-urgent, not important. We can operate in urgent and not important, and we can operate in non-urgent, important, and urgent and important. And I think the a lot of what I do is important, but the urgent and important things are the things that I need to do every day that allow me to not get fired and get continue to get paid. It's the the slides, the emails, the taking notes on calls, just doing the analyst work of absorbing and just providing a helping hand. It's all very urgent and it's important, but the non-urgent important things, that's the reading, that's speaking with or that's learning, that's reading market news, that's networking, that's absorbing as much information as possible. That again won't necessarily help me in the day to day of the urgent and important, but it's going to help me holistically going forward.
Cool. Love it. I love that quadrant. I'm a very visual learner, and I could just like picture the four different areas there. So
Yeah, yeah. So like in like personal life, I think like the urgent and important is eating 3 meals a day, drinking water, like just thrive, like surviving. That's urgent and it's important.
kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like those would be
Right.
like food,
Exactly.
shelter, water.
Food, shelter, water. Urgent, important. Then you have important, not urgent. And you could even put like brushing your teeth in there, like having a good skincare routine, like working out. Um, a lot of things that don't show up the in the hour, in the day, in the week, but will show up over time. And then non you've got
Important,
not urgent.
not
You've got not urgent, not important, which is scrolling social media,
first thing I thought of.
um, scrolling social media, like drinking
Netflix.
excessively, like drugs, alcohol, and just pretty much a waste of time. That's the quadrant in which you just waste all your time. And that's like a lot of times you can slip into that because as humans and just how nature works, like we fall into a state of disorder and not order. And the non urgent, not important things are all in a state of disorder. Like scrolling TikTok, the like drinking excessive amounts, whatever it is. Like everybody has their own version of that. And then then on the not important and not or sorry, this box non-urgent, the scrolling social media, TikTok, drinking, that's not important
But urgent.
because you get that
Yeah.
your friend like your phone buzzes and it says like, oh, Friday beers, you're supposed to video. um like it's urgent, but it is far not important. And that's what the disorder, like that's how things naturally tend to go to in the universe as humans. That's disorder. And then you have not urgent, not important. And there aren't really a whole lot of things that are not in urgent, not important. Um, but and if you are spending your time in not urgent, not important, then it's just like I don't even know what would be a good example of not urgent, not important.
Um.
I guess like just scrolling social media like Instagram like that you could classify that as urgent or non-urgent.
Well, I think anything that's not important, it doesn't matter if it's urgent or not urgent. You shouldn't be doing it.
Correct. Yes, that's yeah. So the yeah, there's yeah, four quadrants. You want to be doing important things. but it's the most important box is the not urgent important.
Mhm.
Um,
Because
because
that's the stuff that compounds over time.
right, like yes, yeah, compounds over time. Reading your Bible, spending time with the Lord, like not it's not an urgent thing. It can fall to the wayside so easily, but it is extremely important.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, that came up earlier this weekend. So that's there.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for
Mhm.
sharing. So, yeah, kind of to sum up here, because we said we'll hold ourselves to 30 minutes today. So, to kind of sum up what we're doing is, I was just journaling last week, and I was journaling in the perspective of like, we already made it and we already got there. And someone is like, how did you guys get to where you got to? Like, they want to pick our brains on how we got to where we got to. And instead of telling them, we can show them. And what's cool about this podcast is we can show people what our mindsets were and we can show people what our thoughts are. Because, as Matt said earlier, we're calling our shot. We're saying we're going to run $1 billion private equity company one day. My net worth isn't much above $10,000 right now. So to have that crazy dream, to say I'm going to be in the far beyond 1%, and the chances of two people coming from the same house being both billionaires, I mean, we could run the stats on that, but it's pretty slim to none. And you heard it here, and we just want to call our shot while we're on YouTube. But yeah, as we're finishing up here, Matt, reflect on this week. Did you accomplish what you wanted to in terms of what you said, and then kind of paint the picture for what this week coming up looks like?
Yeah. So the this past week, last week on the podcast, I talked about how there's just an incredible opportunity to um, just catch up with people that can potentially become mentors in my life, just to learn what they're thinking. And I think that was all an amazing experience. Whether it be like learning from both of these guys that I got dinner with are members of the Bible study that I've been going to, and they each do their own thing, but have been successful. Um, I don't think they would admit it, but to the outside world, they've been very successful. And just learning what they're thinking, like how they go about life, their advice for me as a young single man in New York City, working in finance, pursuing the Lord, just juggling a lot of things. Um, so that those were all incredible conversations, and got a lot out of it. This past weekend, I was spending time. It was basically church camp, and just spending time with other believers. That was incredible. And going forward this week, I need to focus on um, staying in that not urgent and very important box. And I think that that continues. That starts tomorrow morning, getting up and running 8 miles, and then it will continue
Okay.
throughout the week. Um,
Eight
so
8 miles tomorrow morning, huh?
yeah, that's what I've been doing. Or I did what it was 7.5 last week, so I'm gonna do 7.5 again. Same loop.
Same loop. Cool. And that's
Same loop.
downtown or where?
It's running from my apartment around Central Park and then back.
Cool.
So it's like mile and a half to Central Park, 4.5 miles in Central Park, then a mile and a half back.
You're gonna beat my average pace per mile?
Dude, you're slow as shit.
All right, hey, I'll put it up here. I'll add the screenshot of my pace per mile. It was 8 minutes, 5 seconds. I ran a little under 6.5 miles. So I guess we'll toss it in next week. We'll see what Matt's numbers are, and yeah, we'll be able to put it on the screen. So just know that whatever numbers you do.
Well, here's what my 7.5 pace was last week.
I'm guessing it was 7.5. You literally just said that.
No, 7.5 mile pace. What was yours?
8:05.
Okay. So mine was 8:09,
What a loser.
but that's with running through the streets of New York City, trying to not get hit by cars and having to pay attention to bikers, runners weaving in and out of people. So,
Hey, winners win and losers lose. That's all I'm saying.
all right, well, we'll see tomorrow morning.
All right, we will. Um, cool.
Okay, so yeah, just continuing to read. We'll see what the work of the week the work week, the work week. We'll see what the work week brings, in terms of load, but continuing to stay in the important, not urgent box, when I have the time. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. For me, last week was a good week. For business, honestly, a little slower last week, but yeah, just slower in terms of the day-to-day stuff. But I had some good results. I had a lot that was coming out from like 2 months ago that I was working on. There's like this huge echo effect in the business I'm in, to where the newspaper, your newspaper clippings of today were from the work you did 2 3 months ago. So I had a good result week, but I feel like I didn't put in the actions that I needed to. I did end up running at least 5 miles every single day. Ended up running for a total of 27.5, I believe. I'll put the screenshot up here on the video of exactly how many miles I ran. With my big day being Friday, where I ran 6.44 miles. And that was good. That was something I was striving for. There's a huge loop in the Del Mar area where I'm living, and that was something I wanted to take down, and I did. But this week ahead, yeah, it's honestly, it's just doing the boring work, and it's doing the work I don't want to do, and it's just doing that day in and day out. And that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be fun, and it doesn't have to be exciting every single week. But
True.
I'm excited for the results, because I know it's the boring work that other people aren't willing to do. And that's why other people's lives look the same year after year. And that's why other people hope to retire at 65 with a 401k and a primary residence, when we're going to be in a different boat, to say the least.
Call it a yacht.
They're going to be in a little canoe, and we're going to be in a 115 footer. Cool. That's what we got for today. Thanks for tuning in every week. And we'll be getting our Apple Podcast game here in a second. We'll get that rolling too. Any closing thoughts, Matt?
Closing thoughts. Fight the good fight. Do the boring work. It's not always going to be pretty, like Jeff said, but we're here.
Let's go. Day after day. Come on.
Day after day.
See you at the top.